It's Kellen, Diversified Game. You know, we're here to show you how to start, sustain, and succeed in business. I have an entrepreneur, Miss Valerie Harris, all the way from Atlanta, Georgia. And these are some of the best conversations I get to have because she too is a PR artist, a public relations professional, you guys, who also I'm sure has a creative side because you have to have that in this game, especially to last. Valerie, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm great, and thank you. I love that PR artist. I might have to steal that one from you.
Please do, because I stole it from my young guns, Tyson and AL, who are also czars like ourselves, and they just happen to be black too, so they're not hard to find in that czar group. But I love having PR conversations, and I just want you to kind of start. How did you start, with this? Because everybody sometimes has a unique way, but we all find a way where it's like, oh, I did that too. And then you blossom into this, PR professional.
Right. Well, I'll give you a little bit about my background, and I think I do definitely have an unconventional way that I got into this business. I went to UNC Chapel Hill, so I'm a Tar Heel, go Hills. And my major was economics. And after college, I had a couple of jobs. And then I landed in Atlanta at Delta Airlines, which I loved that job, loved that company. And while I was at Delta, I started thinking about wanting to start my own business. I've always been an entrepreneur at heart. And so I started thinking, what would I do? And I wrote my first press release, and it was completely correct. I just have a knack for PR. I've always had a knack for it. And I've always been a really good writer. So those things kind of married well. So I started trying to start my business on the side, but working for Delta, it gets hard to leave a good company with free flight benefits. So every time I was thinking I was going to pull the trigger, I was like, I just don't know. Flying for free and getting to travel wherever I want was just hard to pass up. But then 9/11 hit, unfortunately. And so the job I had at Delta went away. So I took that opportunity to take a package deal. And Delta ended up being my first client. A lot of people were furloughed or laid off, and they needed someone who understood the business. So I was called to write a speech for the chief marketing officer at the time. And then Delta was my first and only client for about the first year and a half or so. And so then Delta went through hard times like a lot of companies, and a lot of consultants were released or were not going to give you any more projects, so to speak. And from there, I just started digging around, just looking. I was interested in sports, so I did some stuff with Mathis from the Falcons, Terrence Mathis. And I did some stuff with the city of Atlanta, and just whatever industry came to me, I was interested in learning more about it and helping as a PR strategist. So.
Wow. So you didn't even have a news background, and you lucked up with your first client being a small company like Delta. That is a blessing.
It's a tiny little company. Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
And I would say one of the benefits, or I guess I would call it luck, where people say there is no luck, because where skill meets opportunity. But the lucky thing for me with Delta was that I don't know if you've ever worked in the airline industry in any way, but it's a very dynamic industry, and it can be hard to understand. So people walking in off the street and just understanding the massive components. So they needed someone who understood the business. And I had that because I had been there for 10 years. So it kind of fell in my lap that way. But my skills kept me there. So.
Yes. And so did you, was PR a focus when you were in college? Did you take any courses, or were you motivated to kind of be like, I saw so-and-so do this, so I can kind of lean on them if I get in a hard place?
No. So I guess the components of PR I've always had. Yeah, I love working with people. I'm really good at building relationships. I like connecting people. I've always done that. So if I hear someone who is interested in a fashion business, then I would say, let me introduce you to. So I've always had those skills. And as I said, I've always been a good writer. But when I was in college, majoring in economics, my goal at the time was to be one of the 7 economic advisors to the president. So then I found out that that needs to go all the way to PhD level, and I was tired of school, and so I said, okay. So when I moved to Atlanta, I actually started with Delta as a flight attendant, and at the time, Delta pretty much required everyone to start on the front in a frontline position because they want you to understand the business. And so I applied in marketing and got the job as a flight attendant. And I was like, okay, I'll do this. And it was the best 3 years of my life. And so then I worked my way inside of Delta during the Olympics, the 96 Olympics here. I was the Olympic marketing coordinator for 2.5 years. And that's how I got into it. So I've always had a love for it, but it wasn't my degree. Not that having an economics degree has not served me well. It does serve me well almost every day. So.
Now, after Delta, then what did you do to kind of bounce back and get some more clients? Because, I mean, here you have huge Delta, and I don't know if you got to keep your flight benefits, but what a blessing that would be. I'm sure you weren't, you weren't stuck ever if you needed a flight. But what did you do to go get more clients, and what type of clients did you go after?
I kept my flight benefits for 5 years. I remember the day they ended because that was a painful day. But I kept my flight benefits for 5 years. And then I had Delta, and another client, I say fell in my lap, but I say that loosely. She had seen some work I had done, volunteer work for another person, and she just was impressed. So she is a shoe designer, and she was at the time was one of only 15 Black female shoe designers in the world, which I learned a lot there that mostly white men design women's shoes. So she had that niche, and I helped her. It was the year Halle Berry won the Oscar, so it was just perfect timing in terms of, Black girl magic, so to speak. So that client came to me as a referral. And from there forward, I mean, I'll honestly say, knock on wood, that I have never advertised. Every client I have ever had has come to me either from me networking or from referrals. And right now, HBO is a client. I had Disney on Ice and Ringling Brothers Circus and Monster Jam and Disney Live, and all of that was either referral business or me picking up the phone, calling someone to say, I see that you need XYZ. Can I come in and make a presentation? So that is one of the skills that I don't know if that works for everyone in this business, but for me, it has been total referral business and repeat business from referrals.
So I love that you said that. I could put that on loop for the rest of the interview, and it would then match what I'm always telling people, especially those folks who I'm sure they hit you up in the emails or they may call, hey, do you want to advertise? And I say, I've never had to, and God willing, I'll never have to. Have I had things in magazines and, different shows? Sure, but that was because they were clients and they wanted to do that for me. Sometimes because, I might not know, they might have been running out of money and said, hey,
right.
We need you to stay on. And he's like, hold on. Oh, that's what that advertisement was about.
Right.
Oh, in your magazine.
Right.
And you've had, people are going to hear this and they're going to see you and say, oh, she's one of the lucky ones. But I've known others who've had, HBO and Disney, some others are. I won't say their business. What do you think it is about you? And is it the conferences you go to, the professional groups you're a part of? Because people will sometimes look at you like a unicorn because they haven't had that level of success.
Well, I always think about what Denzel Washington says. People see Denzel now and they just think that happened overnight, you know. And Denzel will be quick to tell you that he did off Broadway and was eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and, you know, living in his wife's parents' basement, because people don't see that grind and the grind that continues to happen, you know, and the days where I say, oh, am I gonna have a project today? So I think that the one thing that people have to understand, I would say, is that you have to be willing to be told no and not stop. Because for all the clients I've had people turn me away all the time, but it doesn't stop me. So you hone your craft, make sure you're good at your skill, and make sure you also have a portfolio that shows what you can do. And you just have to not be afraid to say, this is what I can do for you. And then you have to do it. So.
Do you ever worry about, you know, not having a client, and do you have any other, you know, businesses that you are running in case that ever was to happen?
Yes and yes. So this is what I tell entrepreneurs. Well, people in general, I think that everyone should have multiple sources of income. That's my economics background. And whatever that looks like, if it's stocks, and if you trade, if you work a part-time job, if you have several businesses, but you always have to have multiple sources of income. And in 2008, that's the year my friend coined when the money party was over. When the financial crash, I did not lose HBO, but they said, okay, we got 5 projects on the table for you, and we're going to take 4 of them off, because everyone was just restructuring during that time. And I actually lost 2 clients who, one closed their doors and one got rid of half of their consultants. But the year before, I purchased a cruise franchise, which I still have. And so when my PR business was, you know, chugging along very slowly, I said, okay, well, I'm just going to pour myself into this cruise business. So that's what I did. And I still have that business, just because it's an asset to leave my daughter, 1. But then 2, if something falls short, then you have something on the other side to pick up and run with. And I recommend that regardless of what type of business you have. So.
Can you give more detail on the cruise business? My audience constantly hears me say, and I have websites for it, you know, invest in this, invest in Africa. Here's investments you can do for under $1,000 that will give you more than 15% on your money. And so I show people that this is true, not because I'm doing it, not because I'm lucky, but it's because this is what business, you know, entrepreneurs, this is what we think about, how to make more money in different areas. So talk about your cruise business a little bit, and because somebody will hear it and say, oh, is that like one of those multi-level marketing type things? And I want you to clarify and give a shout out.
Well, I'll give a shout out to Cruise One, Dream Vacations, and no, it's not multi-level marketing. And one thing that I am adept at, maybe my econ background, but I am a researcher. One of my friends tells anybody, if you are ever thinking about getting into business, check with Val first, because chances are she has done the research. So when I decided that I wanted to have another source of income, I missed travel from Delta. So I missed travel so much, and I wanted to see if I could get back into travel. And I was actually flipping through Entrepreneurial magazine, and there was an ad in the back for Cruise One. And so I said, I had only ever been on one cruise at the time. And let me look into this. So I started researching. I researched Cruise One, and I researched all of their competitors. And I landed on Cruise One for a few reasons. One, it is actually a franchise that if you want to sell it, you can. And sometimes, you know, you have restrictions on that. And also is something that I could leave to my daughter as an asset. So those were 2 big things. But then they gave me customers to contact, other cruise franchisees to contact to see how things were doing. They were just an open book on their business. And that was in 2009, 7, 8, or 9. I can't remember now. And from that day to this, I have had not one regret. I would refer it, and I have people call me now. Sometimes people call me and I tell them, I am getting not a dime to refer you to Cruise One. They are a good business. Their back office is outstanding. The marketing support that they give to us is outstanding. The customer support area is outstanding. So I have been very happy with them. And then they also they give you guidance, but they let you be a franchisee. So you have rules you have to follow, of course, but they give you the freedom to run your business the way that you want to run it. So
I love it. I love it. I love it. And
tell
I
them
love
I
it.
sent you. If anyone calls Cruise One, tell them I sent you.
No, definitely. And if you send me the link, I will put your PR link as well as that link in the description box, because, with unity, we all win. And I really thank you for even doing this, because so many, PR artists would not come in front of the camera. They're so used to being behind and somewhat, I don't even want to call it shy, but not understanding that the industry is changing now, and that it's almost, forcing people to create a platform somewhere because of what the residual income. We're seeing clients make 6 and 7 figures in just, whether it be a YouTube, a TikTok, a Facebook, and you need to be able to tap into that, even if it's in the teaching. So I appreciate you doing that.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, but we ain't anywhere close to being done. I want to talk about the finances. I find that so many people struggle in this business to request what they feel they deserve. And so they'll do stuff for, some people do stuff for $500. And we have a joke here where we don't open up our computers for $500. Like, that's all we do. Open it up. But how did you get your rate sheet and your prices together, especially dealing with these, huge companies?
Well, I will go on record to say that I've been guilty of that, underpricing myself, especially in the beginning, because you don't want to turn business away. Right out of the box, I did a few things for free for nonprofits, which I still do I try and do every year, to just pro bono. But I was trying to build up my portfolio. And then because, we don't have the big firm, or I didn't have the big firm reputation behind me, some of my first clients, I did underprice myself. So the advice I would give to people is that you just have to stand in the confidence, and you also have to stand in what you've done for other clients. And I have not lowered my price before and lost a client because they felt as if, well, you're charging too much. That has happened too. And it can be scary, especially when for a while, the only business I ran was Cruise One. It was the Kinsey Group at the time before I changed the name. That was my only source of income. So when it's that way, you can be afraid to leave money on the table. So you just have to stand in your confidence and your capabilities. And then once you start to build your portfolio, like now I focus mostly on documentary films because that's my love. I just finished John Lewis' Good Trouble, which was outstanding, and passed away while we were working on that. So that was hard, but it was an honor to work on that. And the filmmaker, Dawn Porter, that's the third film I've handled for her. The first one was with HBO. HBO is my client, and they distributed Gideon's Army for her. And she was so happy with my work, she brought me off for Trapped, and then she called me for Good Trouble, and she's referred me to 5 other films. So once you kind of have that kind of backing and you can show what you have done, now I don't quibble. When people offer me a price that doesn't work for me, I just say, it's a wonderful project, but I'm not going to be able to do this. So.
Do you ever use this tactic where, maybe it's a project you really like, or maybe you know that they're lowballing you, whatever. But I find myself saying, if you don't have the money, give me a piece of it. I want ownership.
Oh,
Have you
thought
ever
about
had to,
that, but
go down that road?
I have not, but that's something to consider. Yes, that is something to consider. I have bartered before because of things that I have needed. And so I have bartered, but I've not done that. That is.
Well, I started that for myself because, when you're trying to come up the ranks and doing more than PR, really, folks say, Kellen, you do more consulting than anything. But, it's so close together of what we do and what the client needs. But to tell them, if you give me a piece of it, and you have sometimes the brokest of person say, I don't want to give you a piece of my dream. This is the, $1 billion industry, $1 billion product. And you're like, okay, well, I don't like to deal with entrepreneurs that are greedy, because if it's such a huge project and you say, when you blow up, I blow up, I can't blow up if I don't have ownership.
Right.
And if if you don't have money, we all have to, we need money for all things. That's the scripture.
To eat specifically, right?
Yeah. Where do you think, and I ask this to everyone, and I'm not necessarily asking you about your rate, so the people will be in your pocket, but what do you think a good budget is for someone who's looking for a firm, an agency of your size? Where should they be coming in? Because a lot of people are ignorant to how much it will cost. So I don't do much talking. They get links, they get, scope of works, capability statements, decks, and let the paperwork talk. And if you can afford it, holler back at me, so we don't have to do this kind of back and forth type deal. But people always say that's expensive. I say, yeah. How do you think HBO, Disney, Delta, get where they're at?
Right.
What's a good budget, and what's a minimum for the month, so we can educate people on what they should be looking at when they reach out to a firm like yours?
Well, and that question is always tough for me to answer. And that's because I'm never paid the same way. It depends on the project. So I tell people typically, I'm either paid by the hour, I'm either paid by the project, or retainer fee. It depends on the project. So for HBO, typically, if I'm handling one film and it's a set period of time, then here's the fee to handle this. I have handled ongoing where it's a retainer fee. And then there are people who say, I can only do 10 hours a week. This is what I can afford, 10 hours a week. And then I structure and say, okay, for 10 hours a week, this is what I can do for you, if the pricing works. So it's really hard for me to give a rate, because my rates have been all over. I don't even have a rate card. I just sit down with the client to say, what is it that you need? And then I build it from there. Naturally, the Deltas and the HBOs of the world, have higher budgets than, documentary films normally are working on a shoestring budget. So then those budgets might be lower, but then the services that I provide might not meet the same level, if that makes sense.
Well, give us a range of the hourly and what a retainer could look like, because there's a PR professional who's starting who says, this is the one question I can't answer for myself, and I can't find enough documentation on it that I believe, especially if they are a minority, especially if they are a Black person, because we know that Black folk struggle to get what white counterparts get in this business,
right?
Especially in the beginning. So, somebody right now is working for $10 an hour, and their client's like mad at them, not understanding that that's nowhere in the ballpark that you should be paying somebody if you want,
right.
the results. So what's a range hourly
the last research that I did, and this is what I share with people, it depends. Like if you're at the junior account executive level, if you're just starting, then it could range anywhere from, $90 an hour, depending on if you're getting executive level services, that could go up into the hundreds of dollars an hour. Retainer fee wise, that depends too. It could be, a couple of $3,000 a month. It could go up to $10,000, $15,000. It just depends on, the level of the services. And then I also, when people are just getting started, I encourage them to take into account that if you're just getting started, it would be hard for you to command what someone who's been in the business for 15 years, regardless of how good you are. It's just going to be hard to make that case. So I've told people you can do things like, shop a PR firm, like call a major PR firm and ask them, if I'm getting a junior account executive, how much would that cost? Or if it's, something enterprise that is going to have someone at a higher level, how much would that cost? And that'll give people an idea. But I do encourage people when you're first starting, you don't want to come in like at a Kellen price, because if you're just getting started, because it's going to be hard to make that case. So.
Okay, no, that's fair. And you guys have heard me say before, start at $4,000 a month. And if you have below that, then we're talking about, limited hours, more of, kind of hourly, a block of some sort. Just because most PR professionals that I know who've been doing it over 10 years, we really put our heart, our soul, our energy into the projects. It's almost like it's our projects. We want it to win, and we work hard at it. So you need to pay for that dedication. I had a potential client call me, white guy called me in finance, and talked about all the money he made, and how things are blowing up on this platform, that platform. He doesn't know what to do, and I'm like, okay, cool. And when I sent the scope of work and what the contract would look like, he was like, wait. This is more than I have. And he started telling me how much money he didn't have. And this is why you don't lead with your wallet, fellas. Right, and of course, he was a single guy. Guys know, all they know, leave my wallet, leave my car, leave with my house, not understanding that, you lead even in dating with that. People are going to have certain expectations. Right. And, it is what it is. And he's like, I don't want to lowball you, but it's never a low ball if I can get a piece of what you're doing. So I just love that you share that. Now, where has PR taken you, especially because you've had the Delta Connect? Talk about some of these trips. Where's like some of the most exotic places you've been able to go?
Oh, exotic. Well, I've been, not all over the world, because I have not been to Africa, which is on my list. But I've been to Italy, I've been to Spain and Germany and Great Britain and Ireland, and I want to say maybe Austria. I've been all over the United States. In fact, that Facebook game that goes around sometimes, how many states have you visited? And I always love taking that, because I've been to every state except for 3, I think. And so yeah, I've been all over. I've not been to South America except for, if you want to consider Mexico South America, I've been to many parts of Mexico. And my favorite place outside of the United States is Paris. I'd move there tomorrow if I could.
Which 3 states haven't you been to?
I have not been to Iowa. I have not been to Montana. And now I forgot the other one. I have to look at the list. I haven't been to Iowa. I haven't been to Montana. And I haven't been to Vermont. Iowa, Montana, and Vermont. I've been to every other state in the United States.
Oh, I would say Montana and Iowa, no disrespect to any of y'all, but you haven't missed much. Vermont is beautiful.
Yes, it is actually on my list of places to visit, a bed and breakfast. So
Yeah. If you've been to Maine, I would say Vermont is like its hip cousin, and you'll enjoy the food, whatnot. Sorry, Montana, I can't say anything nice about y'all, but
Except it's beautiful. I mean, I've never been, but I mean, I would love to go in the fall just to see the landscape.
I'll go anywhere in the world. It's just, certain places, they just got some building and rebuilding to do.
Yeah.
And so you said Mexico, and that's Central America. So you've gotten around through the PR. And so folks, you don't have to join the Navy to travel. You can become, a publicist and be able to move.
Yes.
Africa, you said the magic word. If you say Africa, and I know I mentioned it earlier about investments, but
well,
Africa
I wanted to talk to you about that.
Yeah, Africa's waiting for you, and the opportunity that is out there. A few weeks ago, we just registered one of my YouTube clients in Kenya because he fell in love. Him and his wife, they fell in love. And he had fallen in love when we went to Ethiopia, but he didn't have his wife. So, it's never complete until you have your whole family on board. But Africa is booming, and you'll just be an entrepreneur out there. I tell everybody to go to my beta website, mallofafrica.africa. I'll send you a link.
Okay.
But you see the different, things you can do. And what's crazy about the PR is, every time we go to Africa, Black Americans, I feel like a RoboCop. I'm a hybrid Negro because I'm looked upon as, you're more than welcome. You're home. Wherever I go, I've been to 4 different African countries. I've been to 16 different countries altogether, plus probably. And I like to get the language wherever I go, at least the basics. If I'm in Malawi, Muli Bonji. If I'm in South Africa, Sabona, Malo, if wherever we're at, we're in Ethiopia, Salam. You got to be able to get the language down, and things just open up, even if you just try. Kind of like if you speak Spanish here to folks, in Spanish, say "Cómo estás?" and they, just light up, like, okay, you like our culture.
Right.
Your business is so needed because of even the software that we use. Consider like even Cision. Most African publicists don't have access to Cision.
Oh, wow. Oh.
Meltwater, they'll say that stuff is expensive and they're not making any, the yes wares, even the tracking, even the, sometimes we even use that stuff here and people are like, how'd you know I opened your email? I got the tracking on my email. It's part of the job.
Right.
But there is such a cross business that you can do, and I think you would just love it. When you were in Italy, were you single?
Yes, I was.
How many times did they propose to you in Italy?
Well, I'm going to be honest. I got more of that in Paris, believe it or not. But a couple of times in Italy, a couple of times.
Okay,
okay. But I will say this, in terms of marriage proposals, which I find very interesting. I told you I handled the Olympics for Delta. And so I was a marketing coordinator, but during the Olympics, my venue was the baseball stadium, which was Atlanta Fulton County Stadium here. They tore it down when they built the Olympic Stadium. And so I was on duty the day that Cuba played. And so I got to see Fidel Castro, which was very interesting. He came to the game. And so they put this barbed wire fence up on either side of the bus so that when the bus comes up, they step off the bus and then they go into the locker room. And they had to do that because they said of the high probability of defection. So during that time, I mean, we would walk past and they would say, oh, would you like to get married? There is money. There is money. We're like, what is going on here? But so that tops my marriage proposals from Cubans.
Okay. They got to try. With all the success that you've had, and I know you tapped into, doing some stuff for nonprofits, what is your community give back that you are doing or that you want to do in the future?
Well, I always want to do as much as possible. But so when I first started my company, once a year, I would pick a nonprofit and just either handle an event for them or a capital campaign, or just I would do one big thing for them. And then when I got really busy, I couldn't do that anymore. So the Georgia Center for Nonprofits here, which is the membership organization for all Georgia nonprofits, I approached them many years ago to offer a PR class, because the people, the huge organizations that come to the Georgia Center for Nonprofits who have these huge budgets, they don't need it, but small nonprofits have no idea, and then they can't afford to hire anyone. So what I do is spend the day giving them just little tips that if they can't afford to hire anyone, then these are the things you can do yourself. And I help them get their plan down. So if you have to hire someone, at least you can get it to a point, and maybe you can get it to a point where your budget can bring on a consultant. So I've been doing that for 15 years. And actually the Georgia Center for Nonprofits now has created what they call Nonprofit University, where organizations can come in and get certified to do things. So my PR module is a part of a bigger certification that they get in marketing. And I teach it a couple of times a year. I was supposed to teach it in September, but because of COVID, I wasn't able to do it. So I don't know when the next one, but I did one in February, I think. And it gives me a lot of joy, because all of the nonprofits sitting there are, on a shoestring budget. And you have the nonprofits who the person sitting there is the executive director and the development manager and the PR person and administrative. They're doing everything. So it's very hands-on. They walk out of there with we don't just talk about stuff. We get right into it. I have documents for them to start creating a plan. And we spend about an hour or so just talking about what their nonprofit is and what might be media hooks, or how they might reach out to someone who may want to sponsor them. And I've gotten emails from people who listened to me and actually got press and they were excited about it, or made a connection with an organization or a company that was donating money to them, and they're excited about that. So.
No, awesome. Love that. You gotta give to live. Can you?
My grandmother used to say that, to whom, when we were younger, she would say, to whom much is given, much is expected. And we didn't understand that because we didn't have a lot of money. So we're like, what do we have? But as you get older, you understand that. My cousin was a candy striper at the hospital at 14. She always made us give back to the community in some way. So that's still in my heart.
Yes. That is Luke 12:48.
We didn't appreciate it as kids.
Well, kids, I think I was the perfect child, sometimes, but kids never appreciate what until later on. And it's not till really I've always really worked from home, but now I am a homeschool assistant teacher, a job that I've actually had in real life. And I ran from that substitute job as quick as I could after grad. I was like, get me out of here.
Oh my God.
I'm dealing with fire alarms going off and a 13-year-old saying, Mr. Kellen, on top of the desk, I got a baby at home, and she was pregnant at the time. I said, another one? Get off. Yeah.
Well, my 11-year-old is upstairs in the office right now in 6th grade. So we've been homeschooling, and it has been interesting, we'll say. I told her teachers, when this pandemic is over, you're going to hear me coming. I'm going to sound like a NASCAR driver, because that's how I'm going to turn up into that school to drop her off. Okay.
Oh, man.
Hats off. I mean, I've always respected teachers and felt like they, are underpaid, but it is nothing like dealing with it. I told him, I said, I'm going to go in debt for you and buy you a Mercedes.
Yeah. And only if that would do something for their long-term mental health, because the things that you hear, see, I still teach, even for free at where I went to school. in Grambling. I'll substitute.
Oh, you're a Grambling.
Yeah, yeah.
One of my closest friends went to Grambling.
Oh, it is the Harvard of the South. That's what I call it. And I still do it in hopes of being able to teach the masses what they really need to know, because we know most folks in school are getting book knowledge, but not practical knowledge, no matter what degrees, where you went, if you went to Harvard, wherever, and it's by someone who's not in the field 9 out of 10 times. And I think it's a disservice. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so I like the college level, but the middle school and high school level, my goodness, these folks need, like, they're saints. They're going for sainthood.
Yeah, and I tell my daughter some of the things that I'm actually somewhat glad that I've gotten to witness this. She actually is gifted, not bragging, that's the truth, and she's been tested as gifted. And so it's one thing to see how her brain works, after work every day and helping her with homework if need be. And it's another thing to see it in action. So I have gained a tremendous amount of respect for gifted teachers, because the gifted brain is an interesting brain. Like, it never turns off and it is constant. So something that should take 20 minutes with her takes 45 to an hour because of all that. Well, what if? Well, did you look at it this way? And I'm like, can you put that answer down so we can turn this in? So my hat's off to all teachers. I mean, it should be, if not the highest paid profession, it should be one of the highest paid professions in our country.
And it really is not that hard. I do government PR sometimes, and looking at RFQs and RFPs, and it's not hard, but it's something that, I've interned on the Hill for a Congress member. Government doesn't want to change, and that's why you have to hold your nose, whoever you vote for, 9 out of 10 times on that as well, because when you're on the Hill and you have a good idea, it's like being in corporate and having something they haven't done. In corporate, it's a lot easier, but government, we've done it for 100 years, and that's just the way we do it. I actually was told that by a black man I was working under. He was the chief of staff. He's like, you really aren't going to be a good fit. You're too different, and you want to do ideas. I'm not saying they won't work, but that's not what Congress does. As far as, we don't change like that. We'll take 7 years just to think about that idea. And I know I'm a genius. And I would tell them that even in, middle school, elementary, like, no, I'll break your game to build it up. But you have to, and that's why entrepreneurship for me is the only way, because I make a terrible employee, because I have right. that I can show you can work. I'll bet whatever on it, and I don't bet on anything, but I'll bet on me, and I know what we've been able to do. So it's just one of those things. I got a little bit of, I don't know if you know who Al Heyman is.
Say the name again.
Al Heyman. Okay, if you look in boxing, people like Mayweather and the boxers, he's their manager, he's their advisor. That's what he calls himself. But he never does interviews, and he never calls himself. He hasn't done an interview in over like 40 years.
Wow.
And I'm a little like him and Dame Dash, where let's call a spade, and because y'all been calling us spades. And with that, have you seen, I talk about this often, and I tell people, don't let this stop you, but let it empower you. There is a difference in PR if you are Black, man, woman, whatnot, because we've done even testing with, some clients and friends of clients, where if a Black person sends the email, Black sounding type name, or if Jennifer or Becky or Karen sends it, we get a quicker response. And we've proven that. Have you seen that same thing, or am I tripping?
Well, no, you're not tripping. I think that my name, because Valerie Harris, I think they're not sure. So I haven't seen it personally, but I am aware of what you're talking about. And that's not just in the PR industry. Many years ago, and I'd have to find this article, so don't hold me to the specifics, but I think it was in Cosmo or or somewhere like that, where they sent the exact same resume and they changed the names to something that sounded more ethnic and not. And everything from the name down was exactly the same. And I don't know, 5 to 1, the non-ethnic sounding name, those people were called in for an interview, but the resume was exactly the same. So I do believe that as a reality. I think it's a reality. I think, discrimination or racism is a reality in the industry all around. One of the videos I remember seeing is a few months, might have been longer than that, but on the red carpet, how they treat media of color. And I don't know if you saw the one where Halle Berry, whatever movie it was, she was being interviewed, and they had moved the African-American media to the end of the line. And then they said, oh, well, we have to go now. We have to go now. And Halle said, wait a minute, I got to give my sister some love. And she actually came back and interviewed with African-American media. So I think on both sides, it's one of those things, like in the country we're in right now, that is ultra polarized, is something that we just have to continue to push back and fight against.
Definitely. And I remember all those examples and, going back in the resume. I just like to throw it out because sometimes I say, maybe I'm in a different bubble, but right now I really don't care. Like even from my hair, it's a rebellion to say, we can still do this work. Our white clients, who honestly are some of our highest paying clients and, some of the quickest paying too, they don't care what my hair looks like. But when I go to my Black organizations, depending on how I have it styled and what I'm wearing, I wear a lot of African wear, but everything I wear is custom. And I have suits, custom too, but it's an issue inside the Black community sometimes. And so then I think it reflects outside because somebody will hear, oh no, they should be looking like this today. Oh, Wakanda came out? No. He should be greeting us like this instead of, the pound. And I'm just I've been able in dang near 20 years to prove myself. So it's like, either you want it or you don't.
Right.
And it's okay if you don't. Half the time I'm saying no anyway, because it's just something I'm not interested in. Or you have those crazy clients. I know you've dealt with this. I'll pay your rate, Valerie, whatever it is. I want to be famous next week.
Yeah, that one. So I have several. That one, the one where, and I call it was actually this when especially when Oprah was on primetime. Can you get me on Oprah? That's one I get a lot. I used to get a lot. And then the other one that I always speak to is if they say, can you guarantee me coverage? And I tell people, mentees I've had, I was like, do not ever guarantee anybody's coverage. And anyone who totally guarantees coverage, you need to turn around and run from them, because we are only one 9/11 away from nobody getting coverage. And we joke about 9/11 because we say that the only person who was happy that 9/11 happened was Gary Condit. Remember the congressman who they thought had killed Chandra Levy, and he was just in the news, and 9/11 hit and he was off. I said, he's one person I know in the country who was probably glad that 9/11 happened. But I never guarantee coverage to anyone. And what I tell them, and I've actually given czars this, they've asked, well, how do I answer? So here's how I answer this question. Can you guarantee me press? And I say, no, I can't. But I have a 100% track record of getting press for every client I've ever had. So I've got a good track record. But what I'd like for you to know is that I could no more guarantee you press than an attorney can guarantee you a not guilty verdict. But you're going to hire that attorney to represent you, and you're hiring them for his expertise, him or her for their expertise. So that's the same here. You're hiring me for my expertise. I will do an outstanding job, but I will not guarantee you press. So.
And that is crucial. And whenever you use use attorneys and what they get paid and why, publicists are getting this and that, I think that's so crucial because unless you own the media house, you don't know. And
That's right.
I've owned things and I have, ownership in things, and I still won't guarantee you that, because I think it's in bad form that, because I should just be selling you advertisement for that platform instead of
Exactly. Yes. Guarantee and earn media is, and I hear people do it all the time. And I've had clients or potential clients come to me who have left other people who said they could guarantee it. Now, if it's going to be paid media, I mean, of course we can guarantee that, but not earned media.
Yes. What do you think about some of the tricks people are using now with, guaranteeing, because they're going to buy their way onto the backlinks of Forbes, or buy their way onto any backlinks, or they are going to get paid what Cision says the media thing is worth, on the back end. I'll get paid off what I produce, but if that thing is, Cision says that thing is $60,000, your client doesn't have $60,000.
Right. I don't do that either, because really what you're asking me to do is to prove myself, and me coming to the table with my portfolio proves what I could do for you. So I typically, I'm not that I haven't ever accepted back end pay, but not for that reason.
Miss Valerie, I appreciate your time, and I don't want to give the people a game overload. Where can people find you, and are there any one-on-one courses that they can hire you for?
Well, I've actually, I do media training for people, which I think is very important. I cringe every day, interviews on the news. I'm like, don't say that. So I do media training. I'm in the process of, well, not me, but I'm having my website redesigned. But people can find me on Twitter and Instagram, and it's at Creative Pubrel. I had to think about it because you just look for it. At Creative Pubrel. And then on Facebook is Creative Public Relations.
Okay. And are those courses they can buy? Are they already packaged up and, set?
No, they're not. What if people come to me for media training? It typically is, just a consulting fee. But you're giving me ideas, Kellen. I might package some. So
I think we all should have. I also have a publishing company because I like to write, and even my oldest has written a book. My wife has written a book.
Wow, that's awesome.
And when you have your own publishing company, you're not self-publishing. Therefore, you're looked at differently from the libraries. And there's also these secret society type groups. After you get so many books, they allow you to come in. Especially if it's like children's books. And I love writing children's books based on our travels because it's a cool way to document, so my kids can never say, we never went anywhere. Hold on, pick up that book over there.
You're very inspiring and very, very enterprising and entrepreneurial. So we definitely have to stay in contact. I want to hear more about Africa. I have a mentee in Ghana. His name is, and he, maybe I'll connect you. He is a PR person as well.
Okay. Well, I tell you, you're about to get some links. It almost might look like homework. That's why I created the site, to show people, look, you can go find what you want to find, because there's too much going on in these countries for us not to get a piece. China's already got their piece, and they're selling it back to us, threefold in some countries. And what is stopping us, especially, I've never felt like America was home because I was never fully comfortable everywhere I went. Mm-hmm. I can go anywhere I want to go. I can live anywhere I want to live. But when you go, the feeling that you do get when you go to probably Paris, you just feel like, hey, I'm not a Black anything. I'm just an American. I'm just a person. Right. And Africa, that feeling is at least threefold, because everyone's welcome. Come eat. Let me take you here. Many a times you won't even be able to pay for stuff, depending on your crowd of people, where I'll give you some insight here. This is free game, you guys. Game overload.
Well, that's outstanding. And that's why I love to go to the Caribbean, like Jamaica now, because it's just like everybody looks like me and we're all, you don't feel, different in any way.
It's even cheaper. Your own driver in most countries for the month, and this is overpayment, $150.
Wow.
For a chauffeur to be driven, your own your house help, overpayment, $150. That's why you only need $3,000 a month to be rich out there in most countries. Maybe there's two exceptions, but where you're gonna go and be comfortable, that's all you'll need. So yeah, we'll definitely. I'm gonna send you over some links. Check this
I
out.
can't wait. I'm inspired.
Yeah, so I thank you for coming on and giving the game, showing entrepreneurs how to start, sustain, and succeed in business.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm honored.